Chapter 6. Exploring the Woodshed. Soon everyone in town knew the four young Aldens. They went everywhere. One morning, Benny went over to the Bean farm. He met Mr. Bean, Andy's brother, and Mrs. Bean. They were glad to see Benny and told him to come often. But they never said a word about Andy, the older brother who had run away. At lunch, Benny said,
"Here's something funny. You know the beans raise eggs."
"They raise hens, Benny," said Jessie, smiling.
"Well, anyway, they sell eggs. And every day about 3 eggs are gone."
"How do you know, old fellow? How do the beans know?"
"Well, Mrs. Bean told me," said Benny.
Violet laughed and said,
"Henny Penny told me." "No, really," said Benny. "No fooling. You ought to see the list of eggs. They have a paper in the kitchen. It's on the wall. Every time they put down how many eggs they get."
Everyone waited, smiling at Benny. Benny went on.
"Well, this is how the numbers go. 35 the first day, then 36, 34, 35, 35. You see, always about 35 eggs. Then one day suddenly it's like this, 32, 31, 33, 31, 30. See? Somebody's stealing eggs." "Imagine that," said Aunt Jane. "This is a very honest town."
"A mystery," said Henry. "The case of the stolen eggs." Jessie laughed at Henry's joke, but Benny was serious.
"We've been everywhere in this town except for the woods," said Benny. "Let's go up to the woods today."
"Well, you can go if you wish," said Aunt Jane. "But these woods are not as interesting as the ranch. In the fall you can find nuts, but there is nothing there now except the brook and the old woodshed."
The boys looked interested just the same.
"Woodshed?" asked Henry. "Why did they put a woodshed so far away from the house?"
"A good question, Henry," said Aunt Jane, much pleased. "They used to cut down the enormous trees. Then they cut them up right where they fell. They used to fill that woodshed with new wood. Sometimes they left it for a year to season. The woodshed kept the snow off."
"It burns better when it's old,"
said Benny. "Oh, much better. Green wood will hardly burn at all."
The day was hot. The children walked slowly up the hill to the woods. Violet stopped to pick a few flowers. She said,
"Aunt Jane loves flowers."
The Aldens knew the names of many wild flowers. Violet picked a few pink lady slippers, a jack-in-the-pulpit, and some white foam flowers.
"I see the old woodshed," said Benny. "It isn't much."
"No," said Jessie. "It's just a woodshed. Aunt Jane told you that."
At last they stood in front of the woodshed. They looked at it.
"No windows," said Benny. "If it had windows, it would be a fine playhouse."
Henry pushed the door open. He looked in. It was dark inside. He looked again.
"This is strange," he said. "You look, Jessie."
Jessie put her head in the door.
"Somebody lives here," she cried.
"Let me see,"
shouted Benny. Then they all went inside.
"I don't see a thing,"
said Violet.
"Wait a minute, Violet," said Henry. "Your eyes will get used to the dark." "A table!" cried Benny. "And a bench under it."
It was true. A small table stood in the corner with a bench under it. On the table were 2 old plates, a cup, and a fork and spoon.
"No knife," said Benny. "I bet somebody has a knife right in his pocket."
"There is no food either," said Jessie.
"Yes, there is, Jessie. Look up."
Violet was excited. Sure enough, there was a shelf over the table. On it was a wide shingle and 4 cans of food. There were beef and ham and canned string beans and peas.
"What do you know?" said Henry. "We must tell Sam about this. I don't think we'd better tell Aunt Jane." "Do you think it would scare her?" Benny asked. "I'm afraid so," said Henry. "What do you think, Jessie?"
"I don't know. Let's tell Sam first, anyway."
While they talked, Violet looked carefully around the one room.
"There must be a bed," said Violet. "I don't see one."
But Watch did. He had found the bed easily and was lying on it.
"Sometimes I think that Watch can see in the dark," said Violet. "It's just a blanket on some hay. I wonder where the hay came from."
"Maybe from some barn," said Henry. "Plenty of hay around here."
Then they saw the egg. It was behind the cans.
"An egg!" shouted Benny. "I told you somebody was stealing eggs. This is where